Hey, welcome back. I'm Thundercat. We're going to go over some new basic rules for Dungeons and Dragons today. Last week we talked about finding a group, getting into the game itself, and learning a little bit just the basics of role playing. Today, I want to get into the player's handbook a little bit. We'll start creating a character, but first we need to go over the basic game rules, basic things that happen during a game. Most of the time, there's three basic rules. The DM describes what's happening, the players describe what they want to do, and the DM narrates the results. Easy. One, two, three. Here's an example. You walk into a temple. The temple has a dais to the left and a well to the right. Inside the well is a statue of a dragon. The dragon is spitting water into the well. The dais has a tome on it. What do you want to do? The players might say, oh, I want to go look at the tome, or I want to look at the statue. So we'll say a couple look at the statue. They go over to look at the statue. They're trying to figure out what's up with the statue. Why is this statue here? Who put it here? Why is there a statue in the middle of the well? Why? So they ask the DM, I want to know a little bit more about this statue. What does it look like? The DM might ask them for an investigation check or a perception check to see something. They, at that point, will take their D20, which is this dice right here, has 20 sides, and they would roll it. I rolled an 18. 18 is pretty good. After rolling the 18, the DM will describe the results. He will say, or he or she will say, you wander around the well and look at the dragon spitting the water into the well, and you notice that there's some sort of cog-like contraption that is causing the water to run up into the mouth of the dragon and spit out. The player might want to know more about that eventually, and maybe they can break the contraption to stop the spitting water, but that might have consequences. Everything you do in the game has consequences. So that was just a basic rules rundown of what we're doing in a game of Dungeons and Dragons. The DM describes what you see, the players describe what they want to do, and the DM narrates the results. Before we get into making that character, let's talk about some of the different things that you'll hear throughout Dungeons and Dragons and stuff that kind of gets confusing after a while. So let's talk about the dice, the basic game dice. There are going to be 7 basic dice. It could be 6 depending on the set, but 7 is the normal set. First off, you have your D20, which you'll use to make any attack rolls or skill checks or saving throws. Then you have your D12, which is the smaller version of the D20. It looks very close. Can get confusing. The D12 is only 12 sides. That's why they call them 12. D is for dice. So die 12, die 20, D20. Then you have your 10s, which you have this 10, which has the 2 numbers on it. And you have this 10, which has just the 1 numbers on it. You put them together and you get yourself a D100. You could roll, if you rolled 70, that's a 70. And then if you had a 7, 77. Ray Bork. A little Boston reference there. Then you have your D8. Your D8 looks like the diamond. 8-sided die, diamond. Oh yeah, the 10s kind of look like a little top. And then you have your D6, which is your basic D6 6-sided die, the cube. And your triangle D4 has 4 sides on it. The 4 is actually the skull. You can see the skull. Those are your dice. This is going to be your basic set of Dungeons and Dragons dice. All right. So we get that out of the way. So if I say roll a D20, you're going to roll the big 20-sided die. If I say roll 2D6, you're going to roll a D6 twice. All right. Now to get on to some general Dungeons and Dragons words. Things you'll hear during the game. If you're Dungeon Master says you have advantage on this roll. Advantage means you have 2d20 rolls, and you take the best. So if you rolled a 14 and a 7, you would take the 14. If he says you have disadvantage, you would also roll 2d20, but take the worst. So if you rolled the 14 and the 7, you would have to take the 7. Disadvantage and advantage can be caused by a number of different actions. The basic action, you can say, I want to help someone, and that would give them the advantage. There's ways to gain it in combat. There's ways to gain it in role play. Just normally the DM will just say, hey, you have advantage on that because you're good at history checks. You'll learn this stuff as you play, but be ready to hear these words. When it comes to rules, specific rules beat general rules. Your character class says, after an attack, you can use your bonus action to run away without being hit. There's a rule that says you can't run away without being hit. The specific rule from your class is going to beat that general rule because you are built for this. You're specifically built to run away because of that. So that might be something you'll see down the road as a rogue. So just keep that in mind. If you ever roll damage and it's halved, it's always rounded down. So if you rolled a 15 on your damage and it's halved, like because they have resistance to that damage, you have the damage. Instead of it being 8, it's 7. So just remember to always round down on points. All right. So there's a few acronyms we do. HP. Health points or hit points are the amount of health you have. If you have 25 hit points, when you get to 0 from 25, if you get hit for 25 points of damage, you are going down to 0. And that means you have 0 health. Easy. Hit points, HP. AC. AC is your armor class. AC is what I would roll to hit you. So if you have an AC of 16, I have to roll at least a 16, depending on modifiers and things like that. So if I rolled a 12 and I had a +4 on my modifier to hit you with an attack, it would be 16 and that would hit. Your AC is your armor class, and it changes and depends on your class, the armor you're wearing, and if you hold a shield. Obviously, wizards wouldn't have very much armor, but a paladin, a man with a shield and heavy armor, probably have a high AC. DC is something you'll hear from your DM. DC is a difficulty class. So if you wanted to look in at the tome on the dais with an investigation check, you would have to roll, depending on the DM's difficulty class, that amount. So if it's a high difficulty class because it's written very hard to read, you might have to roll high. So DC is your difficulty class. And it ranges depending on the action you want to do or the skill you're using, and how much you might know about that skill or action already. All right, so this video ran kind of long today, so I'm going to cut it in half here, and we're going to get back to it next week so I can have some more time to edit it. So next week we'll have the first part of the player's handbook. To make it easier for you, I'm going to try to split these up and make them work a little better for YouTube. So please comment below if you liked it. Tell me if there's any questions you have, and just let me know what's going on. And I hope you guys have a wonderful week. Smooches.